Welcome back to Bleav in Softball. I'm your host, Jenna. Another week, another opportunity to geek out on softball. And it's a chance to get to know more awesome people connected to the game. So you know what? We'll just get right into it. Some quick reminders for the show. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bleav in Softball. That's BLEAV. And we have video. Bleav in Softball is also on YouTube, so please subscribe. All right, let's go through today's batting order. First, we'll cover our bases, as usual, news and callouts from around the softball world. Then we'll head into today's interview with Jessica Shults. Now, OU fans are going to be happy, obviously, but she also just knows what it's like to win. And she's still giving back to the game today, which is awesome. So I'm excited for that. Then we'll end things with the foul tip of the week, where I share tips to keep us going and help us get better. All right, let's get started. Covering our bases. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fire coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. Head over to the website or use your mobile devices to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV to get started. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline's your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage. It's just the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. And to me, our game starts with defense. There were so many fantastic defensive plays this past weekend, really this season. But just to touch on a few from this past weekend, it was just incredible. Did you see Utah's triple play that they turned against OU? The classic 5-4-3 double play, like hit right at the third baseman, touch the bag, go to second, go to first, like awesome. And it was really cool to see head coach Amy Hogue just so excited too, like literally jumping out of the dugout before the play was even finished. And I think, though, what's great about that is just the transitions, too, like getting rid of the ball, getting the feet set, all of that was so fun to see. But then you look at the outfield as well, and Wilmus from Mizzou robbed a home run from UCLA in center field. Like, that's always a good feeling as an outfielder, right? Like, that's kind of the dream. Speaking of outfield, too, I have to say, and throws. Indiana's relay from right field to third base to end the inning, which at the time was in a 0-0 game against Florida State. Like, that is huge. So, like, yes, that girl got a double, but, like, hosed her out at third base because of a good relay. Again, seeing the ball all the way in the glove, the transitions, everything was spot on. But then, got to give some credit to the Seminole shortstop as well. Josie Muffley had a diving catch on just a flare in left field. Like, the seeing eye hits that always tend to land. Not in this case. It was awesome, full extension, going backwards. Pretty cool. Not often you see that. And then I got to give, speaking of diving catches, it was a Jesse Warren style catch that I saw from College of Charleston as well over at third base. Like what we saw her do in the Women's College World Series, like now we're seeing it in February in college softball, which is pretty cool. So I have to say, defense, if you have listened to the show, if you heard games that I've called before, I'm a defensive purist. I love defense. I think it's just a game changer for a team to be able to have solid defense. And I'm really excited because Rawlings has announced that they're going to have Gold Glove awards, and they're going to have 9. They're going to have 1 per position. And I think that's incredibly important because one thing about this game is, we get really caught up in offense, and it makes sense because ultimately you have to score to win, right? And so when the long ball just started getting more and more popular, like all eyes were on that, but we can't forget about defense. And so I like to see this like national top level recognition of defense. I think we need it. I think it's going to be really good for the game. And I have to say too, on the defensive side of the ball, at least, like we have some good performances in the circle. Megan Faremo had 18 strikeouts against Tennessee. That's pretty insane. Yes, they went 8 innings. Okay, so it was 24 outs total versus 21, but still, that's incredible. And I also was able to witness in person, Stanford at home had 4 consecutive shutouts and 3 consecutive no-hitters from 3 different pitchers, including a perfect game. So Reagan Krause threw a no-hitter first. She started it on Friday. Then turned to the next day, Elena Vaughter throws a perfect game. Then later that same day, Molly Millar throws a no-hitter with 14 strikeouts. Like, this is a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. And they all did it within 24 hours. That is unreal. But the other thing that I want to make sure that we give credit to is the catchers. Catchers deserve credit for this too. I think personally, my opinion is it should be recognized somehow in the stats for catchers too, because it is a battery's achievement to do something like that. And I bet our guest today, Shults, she was a catcher. I bet she would agree with me on this. And going back to defense, that's important too. You know, you look at the perfect game by Elena Votter. She had 8 strikeouts, and that's a lot, especially when it was a 5-inning run rule at the end of the day. So it's only 15 outs that you're getting. Half of them were in the box with the strikeouts, but the other half were made by the defense, keeping those runners off base. And we're seeing so many upsets right now. And I have to say, I do think, again, defense is often the game changer with this kind of thing. It's often who's going to make the first mistake. They might be the ones that end up losing, and then the other team ends up capitalizing on that mistake, and that's what gets them the W at the end of the day. And it's not just physical errors, but it's the mental mistakes too. Allowing runners to get an extra 60 feet or, you know, what have you. Those are all important, and they contribute at the end of the day. So I just had to call this out. Again, obviously the long ball is here to stay in today's game. OU fans that are here are obviously wondering, like, hey, is Jocelyn Aloe ever going to be pitched to again? Unclear, but we can't neglect the gloves. Okay, we just can't. But, you know, the tournaments that we've been able to witness in this preseason have been awesome. I mean, obviously, we go straight from the St. Pete Clearwater Elite Invitational in Florida across the country to the Mary Nutter Classic in Southern California, and they're both huge tournaments. But what was cool is at Mary Nutter, what we actually got to see a lot of is just thousands of people in the crowd. So after we have this historic TV viewership in Clearwater, then we get to turn around and see like the in-person attendance too, which I just thought that was a really cool kind of back-to-back weekend thing that we got to witness. And, you know, next weekend, people are going to Judy Garman, and that's at Fullerton, you know, in SoCal as well. And I remember going to that when I used to play too. We used to go mostly every year to Kajikawa in Arizona at Arizona State, which was a big tournament at the time as well. We'd go to Mary Nutter in Palm Springs, and we'd go to Judy Garman. Like that's kind of what we did. And then we'd host another weekend or two at home in preseason. And that's what got us ready for Pac-12. So it's just fun for me to see some of these tournaments that have been around for a while, like, you know, that I used to compete in, and how they've just grown and evolved since. I think that's a testament to where our game is going. And last but not least, I have to say, of course, congratulations to Carol Hutchins for surpassing Mike Candrea as the winningest coach of all time. She officially did it. She hit 1,675 wins and counting, by the way. She's won a couple more since, which is big time in D1 softball. And you know what? Mike Candrea, classy guy that he is, sent her a really nice video message. And that's really what the game is all about. And it's cool to see ambassadors of our game, you know, just showing that respect and class in these situations. You got to love it. And just Hutch is just one of those people who just knows what it takes to win. So let's just soak up her greatness while we still can. But someone else who gets it is today's guest. So let's head into the interview. She is an Oklahoma alum, 3-time All-American and national champion, Team USA and USSSA Pride alum, former D1 assistant coach, current national director of softball scouting at Perfect Game, and fellow SoCal native, Jessica Shults. Welcome. I'm super excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad to be here.
I know, me too. And this is one of my favorite things actually about doing this podcast is like, I feel like you and I both growing up in SoCal, we kind of like knew of each other, right? But never had the chance to play together. But like our dads probably talked at tournaments, right? Like the typical softball dad thing. And now we get to, you know, kind of connect and reconnect and almost like actually get to know each other a little bit. So
100%. It's crazy. No, the Southern California softball world is so small. It's like everything always comes full circle.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny because as I was thinking about and like getting ready for our conversation today, I was like, man, I'm trying to remember like back when, you know, we were kids basically like playing in SoCal and the travel ball scene. And I do remember you played for Hart, right? Like, I don't
Yes.
even mean high school. I'm talking like all-stars rec ball,
Yes, I
right?
did. Oh my gosh, rec. Back in my horrible pitching days. Thank goodness that didn't work out. But
Honestly, well, I think it worked out when you flipped
yeah,
behind the plate, right?
100%,
I think
100%.
safe to say that worked out. But yeah, I
Oh
mean,
my
I think
gosh.
to be fair, a lot of people had their interesting 15 minutes of pitching during that time. So
Yep. Had to
you're
do
right
it.
in with
Had to
everybody
do
else.
it.
I actually remember, I think you're a year behind me, like in our
Yes.
class, school days. And I was
Mhm.
thinking about it and I was like, maybe you were on this team. But I remember we were at some tournament for All Stars. Like, seriously, this is like
Mhm.
obviously a huge throwback. And this was Camarillo All Stars that I was playing for.
Yeah.
And we lost. Like, you guys beat us. And it was like, I think either the semifinals or something like close to get to the championship of whatever that tournament was. And I remember one of the parents, like, first of all, there was always like music bumping, like in between
Yeah.
innings and stuff from you guys. And one of the parents played like "We Are the Champions" after you guys beat
Oh
us.
my
And I was like,
gosh.
okay.
Typical Heart move. We definitely probably did that. Oh
But
my
it was
gosh,
just, I
that's
don't
too
know.
funny.
It's just funny the things you remember too. Like, why would I
Yes.
remember that now that we're going to talk,
Right?
But here we are.
That's too funny.
Anyway, fast forward now a little bit.
Yes.
And the other thing is I don't even know if I mentioned this to you, like when we were talking about having you come on the show, but I've had a couple of your Oklahoma teammates, like Kaylani Ricketts was on the show in
Mhm.
season 1. And Shay Knighton, who I know you didn't play with, but just
Yeah.
that, OU sisterhood.
Mhm.
And excited to have you now. And also, I have to tell you this, the producer and editor that I work with on this show is Brittany Williams'
What?
cousin.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Brittany Williams was one of my bridesmaids in my wedding. So small world.
Right? It's so crazy. And I played with her. I haven't talked to her in years. So it was like so funny when I first met my producer, Alan. But I, remember playing with her in travel ball for like a year or so on the Jets, back
Mhm.
in the day. But
Yeah, the
anyway, yeah, I
Jets.
thought that, right? Oh man, what days. But yeah, I was like, I have to
Yes.
tell Jessica this
Yeah.
because it's too funny.
Like I said, small SoCal world. Everyone is connected. Everyone's got one connection. It's crazy.
It is. And I do feel like with your OU sisterhood too, that's a thing. Also,
Yeah.
like you guys are
Yes.
so close knit. Like you
We
said, like
are.
not just from the teammate side of things, but even in your personal life. Like you just said Brittany was a bridesmaid, right? And
Mhm.
you guys are all really close. And I've always thought that was a cool aspect of OU. It's very evident, like from the outside looking in. So
Yeah.
how would you kind of describe maybe why that exists or like what your experiences were like that led to that?
I think why we're so close because playing in Oklahoma, anyone will tell you it's a grind. You're working hard. Obviously, everyone across the country is, but it's just we had each other, and we relied on each other a lot. And it went back to just so many. We went back a couple months ago, and we celebrated the 2021 team getting their rings on the field, and it was all the past champions came, and it was just a really cool experience that being there even with the 2000 champion team, and it's getting to hang out with those girls, and the players that were there that showed up pre Coach Gasso. It was just a fun sisterhood that the legacy that has lived on because of the outreach that Coach Gasso has had to make sure that we're all staying connected. We still have a group chat with about 50 of us that we stay connected, and it's just a really special bond. And I think it starts at the top with Coach Gasso just making a team that you want to be a part of, and really making it family oriented. I can't even count on both hands how many times we've just called her like, okay, we're coming over for dinner, and she's got a full spread ready for us. It's that welcoming with her when you were a part of her tribe. So I think that's really kept us intertwined for so long, because when I do go back, I live in California now, but I go back and her husband's my first call. And he's like, okay, well, make sure you're coming over for dinner one of the nights. And like, make sure like, it's just very, very welcoming and making you want to be a part of it for a lifetime. So I think that it starts with her and creating that family environment.
That group chat must go off.
It's wild.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'd have to like at some point silence notifications just because I'm sure it's insane.
I know. I just looked and there's about 9 notifications on it. And I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have time to look, but it's probably hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing. I bet the binging to catch up is fun though too.
Yes.
I love the way that you guys talk about Patty Gasso too. Like Kaylani's the one who kind of let me in on the, oh yeah, she's Natty Patty. Like that's what we call her. And that was before this last championship, right? Like in 2021. Yeah. So I love that. Like, I think it's amazing. And I think it needs to be more of a thing. Like we need to get this hashtag trending like this.
Oh,
we got to get this going.
During the World Series, we get it to trending. So hashtag Natty Patty is definitely trending when it comes to World Series time.
Well, and I think it's a big deal, right? Like, and on the one hand, she is one of the higher paid softball coaches, which is a big deal for our sport and also for women in leadership positions like that. But then in addition to that, it's like we get caught up in the Pac-12 SEC conversations, but really y'all have more championships than the SEC as an entire conference, right? So it's like you're almost like your own sort of category when it comes to the World Series.
No, and I mean, I think that's something that she prides herself into of, being in the Big 12 and, not always getting the high RPI numbers that you kind of need to set yourself up in comparison to the SEC and in comparison to the Pac-12. And so I think she really prepares her team, through preseason and all of that and just keeping that inner squad intensity they're playing against the best of the best every practice. So it's keeping that intensity. So when they do face the Floridas, when they do face the Alabamas, they've already done it day in and day out at practice. Even, the Big 12 is great. We're moving into the SEC in a couple of years, but the Big 12 is good competition. But when you're facing the best of the best every day, I think it's easy to get yourself ready for those championship situations.
How do you feel about OU moving to the SEC?
I'm excited. I am fearful for football, but I'm excited for softball. Football, I'm a little nervous for those guys. I'm not going to lie. I pray we've got the right guys coming in to handle that SEC football life. But softball, I'm ecstatic. I think it'll be a challenge. I think it'll be a dogfight, but I think Oklahoma can handle it. But I don't know how football's going to handle it. That's just my honest opinion. I'm like, oh no, maybe we should keep football in the Big 12 and every other sport should leave. But we'll see. But no,
I mean, fair. But I will say, like, just in terms of fans, like you guys, you have the fans to compete in that way, at least with SEC football. So that's going to be awesome. Like the tailgates are going to be unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, they're going to be unreal. And I really do think that, making that big splash of announcing that we're going to the SEC has really sped up the process of getting Coach Gasso that new field. Because just you can't compete with those SEC fields. They're beautiful. We traveled to Alabama one year. We traveled to Auburn one year. And I remember walking into those complexes and you're like, wow, like it's amazing what they're able to do in those areas. So I'm very excited for the future of OU softball because now they're able to compete stadium wise with those, stadiums in the SEC because they are crazy. Those stadiums are beautiful. So very excited for Oklahoma to be on that same playing field as just in terms of stadium.
Oh, 100%. I remember my junior year, we went to super regionals at Alabama and I felt the same way. Like obviously everyone's rooting against you. So there's that, but the environment was still so cool, cool. And just people tailgating our games, like it's football and it was just awesome.
Oh, it's awesome. I think that's the SEC, they bring a crowd. And so that part of it is going to be really, really fun athletics wise for Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's so exciting. What's more important than peace of mind? Nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you're online. And with all of the threats that you face today on the internet, it is more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all of your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either, and plans start at under $4 a month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Bleav or use the code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus one additional month for free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. I feel like with OU too, like when you were talking about the competition and going head-to-head in the softball world, football, like you said, another story, but for softball, you guys have this toughness about you. And I don't really mean like this toxic toughness, like, oh, water is for the weak kind of vibe. That's not what I mean. What I mean is just this like steadfast commitment to the cause and to each other. That seems like, I mean, you tell me, because you lived it, right? Like you're a part of it, but that's what it seems like it is.
No, it definitely is. I mean, you see the spotlight on these kids now with social media and all of that, and Coach Gasso, though, in the foundation she's laid, she still makes them earn their cleats for the spring. It's not just things aren't just given to these players, and that's something that I respect so much about Coach is we had to earn a lot of stuff, and I just think it puts you in that blue collar mentality that she preaches day in and day out, is that we're going to outwork people, we're going to earn stuff. She really wants it to feel like you aren't just given things, that this is the pride factor to be able to be wearing Oklahoma across your chest, that, and something that I've taken into my, life daily after leaving Oklahoma is just that blue collar mentality of getting the work done and not expecting the glamour, because that will come once you're putting in the hard work and all of that kind of grind on the front end. And so, she really does preach, bringing in girls and you're leaving women, because she gets you ready to not only be successful on the field, but be successful in your life after softball, and really make sure she's giving you the tools to be successful and not just handing you the book. She really is teaching you how to be an advocate for yourself, how to be a hard worker, but also being that, support system too, which was so great. Like, I talk to her once a week, it's that relationship that I know she's always going to be there, but she put the trust in on the front end and making sure that you had that trust with her. So it's definitely something that's preached in that program, and something that I love so much about the program is that it is very much a blue collar mentality. I know that it's not just given, it's definitely earned.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important, right? Like the glamour is the result, not the journey. Like that, I
Yes.
think the distinction you just made is spot on to how that happens. Cause people get excited seeing the World Series every year, and you see Oklahoma
Totally.
and you're like, wow, they're there all the time. But there's so much more to it than just showing up in
100%.
Oklahoma City.
100%.
I feel like though, with that toughness or that mentality, blue collar mentality, which I love that. I can see that in sort of your story from your playing career as well. Not only on the field, like I said it in your intro, right? It was one of the longer intros I've had on the show, right? Where you had those results, like the All-American, the national champion, all of those things, but even just as a person. So your story is something that's really cool to me too, not just on the field, but I remember I read, so this is how detailed we're getting here. Your Lowe's Senior Class Award profile online. So this is the prep I do, Jess. Yeah. Like this is it. We're talking this detailed. I saw that they described you as unflappable toughness. That's what you had. And first of all, unflappable is a hilarious and amazing word that we should use more often. So there's that.
I agree. I'm like, wow, they call you that? Okay.
Right. But secondly, like, I think that toughness, your story of just, in your sophomore year, being diagnosed with pan-ulcerative colitis and missing 7 games and then coming back to the Women's College World Series to compete with your team, not just what you did on the field and like physically, but what you've done from a leadership perspective, from an emotional perspective, off the field with other young girls who might be dealing with similar things. That feels like that toughness that OU has.
No, 100%. And I mean, I tell everybody all the time that I was put in the position to be at Oklahoma and go through that. And I really don't think if I was anywhere else in the country, I would have been handled the same. I have so much respect for Coach Gasso during that time in my life because it was one of the toughest moments of my life. But I'll never forget the day I was put in the hospital was the day they were starting regionals. So regional games were starting at 3 p.m. We were hosting. First time we had been hosting in years. Like we were on the road my freshman year. We're finally hosting again. And I wake up at like 6 and need to go to the hospital and get to the hospital. And Coach Gasso is sitting with me until game time. And then once it was game time, had her husband come and sit with me until my parents were able to fly in. So it's just that goes back to, I was tough because I had so much respect for her. And that's the type of people that she recruits is when you have that respect from your coach, you're going to willing to do, she used the phrase one time, you'll run through walls for this team. And I 100% would run through walls for that team. I still would. If someone calls me up from that team tomorrow and needs something from me, I will do my best to, be there. But that toughness comes from that community of women I was around. That toughness came from being a part of something bigger than myself and wanting to create a legacy that's now been passed on for, gosh, I'm like, oh God, we're coming up on our 10-year reunion here soon. But that legacy is now living on with these players and, still doing some of the traditions that my teammates and I, created there. And I think that's where that toughness came from in that time in my life is being surrounded by women that uplifted me and that made me better and that I wanted to be around. Because it was a low moment in my life, but I literally tell everybody, and my parents and I talk about all the time still that I don't think it would have been handled the same if I was at any other university. God put me in that university for the right reasons. And it was the best decision of my life to go through that lowest point softball wise. And because you never know if you're going to get back to the World Series. I mean, we were getting to the World Series for the first time in 10 years and I'm in the hospital. So it was, you never know what can happen in the future. So it was, getting myself, even though I struck out against Chelsea Thomas, getting myself back in that situation to be back at the World Series. But no, I really do think the toughness came from the people around me and, being able to, have that sisterhood like we talk about of, those girls. So yeah, I think that's where that stems from.
I think it's super inspiring and speaks to this idea of it's not just softball is softball, like it's what we do, it's not who we are,
Yes.
but things that we learn and the character that we build through softball does contribute to who we are. And
Absolutely.
if you're truly living that lifestyle and having that blue collar mindset, having that toughness, having that trust really that it sounds like you had with Patty and with your teammates, like that does transcend the field, and I think that sometimes we get too caught up in what's going on in the field, but that overall impact is huge.
No, absolutely. And I think I tell everybody I'm not going to lie, I was a little cocky my little freshman year. I was a freshman All-American, living big, everything's going good. And I think my butt needed a wake-up call. Like, Jess, this is bigger than softball. You need to make sure that, we're doing the right things off the field. We're reaching out and being there for people and getting the support I got from that. Really, not saying I wasn't a team player at the time, but really, invested in me wanting to be a captain my junior and senior year, wanting to be, even in my career now, I want to be an advocate for people and make sure that, if there's something that we need, I want to be, the one they can count on to get it done. And, that's to me, the blue collar and the reputation that you pride yourself in. And, that time in my life was a big wake up call that, you know what? Life is bigger than softball. My health is bigger than softball. And I want to be remembered as a good person. And I want to be remembered as someone who treated people well and, that left a legacy outside the softball field, as well as on it. But that to me was a little bit more important. So, no, I agree.
And I've seen you say before that colitis is a blessing, not a curse, or something to that
Yes.
effect. And I'm getting from us talking about this now that this is really what you mean. Like, obviously, from a health
Mhm.
perspective, you want everyone to be healthy, right? But
Yeah.
from just a larger impact perspective, this has been an opportunity for you to learn and help others, basically.
Absolutely. The second I was diagnosed, I had multiple people reach out to me, former softball players, people I still keep in contact via social media, but just those relationships would have never been formed and would have never been put in my life if this didn't happen to me. And I've met some amazing people along the way, whether it's just sitting in the doctor's office getting my medicine, but just getting to learn so many people's stories and getting to advocate for people in this sport because it is a disease that goes a little bit untalked about. And so I was able to use my platform. I was able to use my story to kind of help young girls that were dealing with it, show them that, you can still play softball and have colitis, that, those tough times you are going through where you feel isolated, that it's going to get better. And if you do want to play sports. So I had a lot of positive feedback from younger parents, from younger girls that were like, thank you for sharing and, making me believe that I can get back on the field, whatever sport, because, sometimes this disease is crippling. I've been lucky enough to be in remission the last 5 years, but my teammates can tell you that they've seen me. My roommates saw me even after college, that, it's a struggle sometimes. So very blessed to be where I'm at, but, I'll always use my story to hopefully help somebody else. To me, it's not embarrassing anymore. I mean, my husband, it's just out there. It's something I deal with. And I want to make sure that people always feel comfortable talking about it because there isn't a lot of awareness about it.
That's right. And I think not only does it bring awareness, but it brings that community too. The feeling that you're
Yes.
not alone. Everybody wants to feel that, right? And anytime that
Mhm.
there's a silver lining that could come from something like that, it's a positive step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would want to share from an awareness thought process about colitis with the listeners?
Yeah, no, I think the main thing, get help as soon as you can. The second you start, feeling like something's wrong, feeling like tried to power through it. I'm not going to lie. I've loved softball so much that I let my health get so bad where it turned into panels. It could have probably been, very treatable very early. I played about 30 games in a lot of pain when I should have just, listened to my body and gotten the help and tried to quote unquote tough it out because that was my upbringing, and be tough, something's bugging you, we'll deal with it later when softball season's done. But that's one thing that, I definitely do now in my real, if something seems off, sometimes I got to take a look and cancel some things, and really focus on making sure my health is number one because, when your health is bad, it really does affect everything else in your life. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway I would, tell people that are struggling with, intestinal disease or intestinal issues, that go get help the second you start feeling, pain, or the second you start seeing something changing in your routine, because that is my biggest thing. I probably wouldn't have been in the hospital so long if I would have just, taken the right actions on the front end. But also, it was a learning curve. We didn't know what it was. There was, I mean, I
Right.
was going to my trainers. They were doing the best they could, and there wasn't a lot of information. So, if anybody, ever had my Instagram is, they can always reach out to me, and I will always respond to those types of things just because it is still such a big part of my life. And but yeah, I wish I would have gotten probably help a little sooner instead of tried to take the tough route, because that didn't work out at the end.
Well, I think this is a really important learning, though, in the sense of toughness doesn't mean like pushing something under the rug or not listening
Yes.
to your body, right? Like that's kind of like that's what I mean by I feel like Oklahoma really has that just from a cultural standpoint. But this is a good example of it's like, yeah, you have that blue collar mentality. You do push yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not soft, right? Like we're working hard here. We're gonna
Yes.
push ourselves to the limit. But you also true toughness is also paying attention and doing what's best for you. It's not just, grind it
Absolutely.
out until, yeah. I mean,
Um,
and you were so young, like you were just
19, so I
19 and
definitely just wanted to be tough, but no, definitely now, 11 years later, it's definitely changed my perspective a little bit, and making sure that, I stay on my medicines and stay on all that, on top of all that stuff, because, it's something that can switch so quickly and can take a turn so quickly. So yeah, that's just been my biggest takeaway is, making sure you're staying on top and getting help and really taking care of your body. Not saying I do a perfect job nutrition wise, because I do love Taco Bell. Definitely love some probably food I shouldn't eat, but I do try to maintain a healthy diet with exercise and doing all that. So just to help with things.
yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what that's words to live by, like let's
yeah.
just try to do our best, right? That's all we can really do, especially with all the craziness of these last couple of years. I mean, my goodness.
Ah, yes, yes.
Wow. Well, it's cool to me too because you go not so yes, you went to the World Series that year after your diagnosis and after you were in the hospital, but then a couple years later, you get to end your career in college at least winning that championship. And it was the
Mhm.
first time in 13 years that Oklahoma had done that. And then since then, obviously, it's happened a few more times for the
Yeah.
program. But to be able to do that and then move on to play professionally with pride and then even spend time with Team USA, like that is I think such a cool example of not only working hard to achieve your goals, but like these learnings that we're talking about right now along the
Mhm.
way, helping you to get there because maybe certain things happen like that to get you on that path.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think it was definitely a wake-up call that I took my health for granted. I took being able to run for granted. I took being able to, to do what I wanted to do on the softball field a little bit for granted, that I just, I'm not going to lie, I was naturally athletic, so the softball, I worked hard, but it did come a little bit easy to me my freshman year, where I did definitely worked my butt off to get there, but it was crazy how starting over, and I'd lost about 28 pounds in the hospital. So having to regain muscle, having to regain even just the ability to run to first base, like all things that just you thought came so easily. Now I was having to start from scratch again, and really made me love the game, and really made me, want to take this game to the next level. So I really do think it was, like I always say, a blessing in disguise to really show me that, I'd played this game for, my entire life since I was 5 years old. And, at some points, maybe I was on cruise control a little bit, and really it gave me the perspective that I get the opportunity to play this game. I get the opportunity to wear Oklahoma across my chest. And those things aren't just given to me because of my ability. Like I really had to prove myself and work my way back into that lineup that next year, um, because it just had taken such a toll on my body. But so that definitely was a wake up call, and really showed me my love for this game. And I still love this game. I'm still in it. I don't think it's ever going to leave me, because it's just the game has given me so much and so many opportunities, that I want to make sure that I'm continuing to invest in these, younger generations, to make sure that they have the same opportunities and same, you know, um, things that I was able to obtain from this sport. So definitely an eye-opening experience, and showed me that I do want to play this game. So
Well, and that brings us to everything you're doing now with Perfect Game Softball. And from my side too, and like we played at the same time growing up and everything, right? Like travel ball,
yeah.
developmental, youth, everything in that world has evolved and expanded so much since we
Hmm.
were at that age. So I guess let's start with just what the goal is and the vision of Perfect Game and why you wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Destiny Martinez, also Oklahoma alumni, also one of my best friends, but also one of my bridesmaids, but just that Oklahoma connection. But no, she had reached out to me about 3 months ago now, and I'd heard of Perfect Game before. My brother had played Perfect Game growing up. It was very, very big on the baseball side. But I, didn't really know they had a softball presence. It was something that was new to me. But I knew if Destiny was investing in it, it was something I wanted to learn about. It was something that I definitely wanted to have a conversation because, Destiny to me is just so career driven and wants to make this game better. She was with, USA softball for 7 years and did amazing things with the MLB play ball event, helping inner city kids. And her drive in the sport at the youth level really is something I look up to because she has done such a great job for young female athletes and giving them a voice. And so when she approached me with her vision for Perfect Game and where she saw the direction that they can go with, the technology they have on the baseball side, just all the data that they have to give these kids the opportunity to play at the next level. And, Dusty and I, we played for the top travel ball team. She played for Corona Angels out of Southern California. I played for Tony Rico, the Firecrackers. So we know that those kids are going to have a little bit more opportunities to be on those premier fields, to be in front of those college coaches. But, what about these kids that are in Burlington, Iowa, that are in these areas that aren't able to get to the West Coast as often and play in those big time tournaments? And that's where Destiny and I's drive comes from, is giving those kids that, have the talent that just maybe don't have the full resources or don't play on that top tier team. How do we get them the same opportunity to be seen and create a profile and, mentor them? Because that's something that we really want to create, is a mentorship between us and the student athlete, and not just, creating an event for them and getting their data, but something that's very different than the baseball side that I think people are starting to realize is, women, we are a little bit sensitive. We love that connection. We love that, relationship piece. I mean, I say it all the time that the first time I met Natasha Watley, it was like, oh my gosh, like we're having a conversation. And that's something I'll remember for the rest of my life. I looked up to her since I was 8 years old. And then we were teammates and we're chatting. And it's just things like that are the memories that I truly remember about the game. So that's something that Destiny are really wanting to create, a place where, yes, we can give them the data because we have so much at Perfect Game, but also want to give them a place where they're learning the recruiting side of it. They are learning about the technology that we're giving them. We're really leaving the game better than we started by, sharing our knowledge with, myself. I'm with the scouting department. So I'm bringing on former college coaches, former All-Americans, former, people that have played at very different levels, because I think it's so important to show these kids that everybody's journey is a little bit different, and we're all connected. We're all here. I didn't play with a lot. I didn't play with any of the women that I'm going to be recruiting with and scouting with, but this community is so tight knit, and the relationships that you make in the softball community are for life. They really are. I mean, the people I'm bringing on are just, people through different walks of life. And now we're all, conjoining. So it's something that we're really trying to change the softball community. We're welcoming for everybody. We're not trying to put a brand where you have to play PG. We really want to make this accessible for every athlete that wants the opportunity to have their data out there, to have the opportunity to be seen by reliable scouts, and to have that mentor piece. it's really, Jenny Finch says it all the time in our meetings, it's created by the athlete for the athlete so they can be in charge of their experience and where they want to go in this sport. So something that, when Destiny sold me on the vision, I was all in. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I love giving back to this game. Like I said earlier, the game has given me so much. So, I want to use my platform and use my voice to, help this next generation of softball players and, hopefully leave this game a little bit better. I mean, we looked at statistics and 30% at the youth level, softball's dropping off. And so it's how do we get that engagement back? How do we get these, young athletes investing back in this sport? And I think it starts with strong women leaders and, taking the time to really mentor and really invest in these athletes. So, it's going to be a process, but we're really excited to, start this journey and get it going.
I think that's so well said. And I love this for so many reasons. And something that just popped in my head as you're talking about the drop off. And it's really about keeping girls in the game. That has been
Yes.
a conversation that's been happening for a long time in the softball world, but now there's more and more action behind it, like what you guys are doing with Perfect Game. But it makes you think about even later on into adulthood, how women will drop out of the workforce sooner, maybe because of different life paths they're choosing, whether they're becoming mothers, etc. And they maybe don't like
Hmm.
move up the ladder as much or continue on those paths. And even though this is softball we're talking about, if we instill that idea that like, no, you can keep going, here are the resources, here's that mentorship that is often lacking for women in the workplace. If
Yep.
you instill that in these girls at a young age, like, wow, that sets them up not only for their softball careers, but for their lives.
Absolutely. And that's another good point you brought up is that's what Destiny and I are trying to, give as well is, after college, there's not a lot of job opportunities in softball. You can, be a college coach, you can give lessons, you can coach travel ball. But other than that, I mean, staying in the game on the, operations side is something that, is very limited. So that's another thing is Destiny we are trying to create job opportunities for women that want to stay in softball that don't necessarily want to go into the college coaching grind or but how do we create more opportunities for our sport from the women that played our sport, so that's one of our other big drives of my job is bringing on scouts to give them and give women another opportunity after they're done playing to be that mentor, be that piece for these younger kids and show them that, like you said, women can be in the workforce, they can have families, we can do it all. And it's just, the platform you put yourself on. So, that was a great point.
I mean, I love this. This is the stuff that gives me life. So I love what you guys are doing. And it's so cool. It's funny too, because you mentioned Natasha Watley. I had a similar moment in a different way. So not playing together as teammates, but she was one of the first, she was the fourth ever, I think, guest that I had on the show. And even before that, we had talked about maybe even co-hosting this show together. And then it didn't work out because she had
Oh, wow.
5,000 things going on in her life, right? But
Yeah.
I kind of had that moment that you mentioned, which is like I took a step back and I was like, wait a minute. I used to look up to her and watch her play with Team USA and all of these things, and now we might talk softball together. Like
Yeah,
it's a crazy full circle moment. But I think to your point, that mentorship piece in all of this is so important, and something
100%.
that again, yeah, at a young age too. I mean, oh, so valuable.
I agree. I mean, you just think about you go to these camps and the kids go back to their car and it's like mom and dad asking what they learned. And, to me, they're going to come to that car and be like, I remember what, so and so told me, like that conversation that we had. And those are the things that, as women, we really remember those, things. I mean, I give lessons to younger girls now and I'll be like, can you feel that in your swing? And they just want to chat. They want to have that relationship. I remember a little one the other day was like, they changed the chips at school for nachos. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? But it's, bringing that relationship to them and really, letting them know you're listening, letting them know that you're here for them as an advocate for the sport. And I think that's what we're really trying to create, is just, like I said, that mentor and that relationship piece that they can have for their, future, even if it isn't playing collegiately. But how do we keep these kids investing in the sport at whatever level they want to play at? We want to make sure that we're just, giving these athletes a platform to continue to play the game and to continue to love the game at any level that they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the concept too, or the layer of this that is just creating more opportunities for everybody. It is like this
Hmm.
idea of inclusion. Like you and I, yeah, we happen to grow up in Southern California,
Yeah,
which was like the hotbed of softball, right? But like not everybody
exactly.
gets that, and that doesn't mean that they're not extremely capable, right? So
Exactly.
it's finding the talent everywhere that it is, not just the easy places.
Absolutely.
And even you look at like JMU like last year and what they were able to do as a quote unquote mid-major program. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, we're all proud of the legacies that we had at our alma maters, and like there's tradition and things that you really respect, but it's so much bigger than that.
Hmm. No, I agree. I think that, I followed, honestly, after the World Series, just because I think her story is so great. And I think she put a post out the other day, and it was like somebody asking her how many offers she had, and she was like 0. But that's the thing. It took one school betting on her, and now, she created such a great legacy. So I think sometimes we get caught up in needing all these offers, needing all this gratification, where if you just bet on yourself and you get to the right place at the right time and you get that opportunity to play at the next level, you make the most out of that opportunity at the next level. And she's one of the best stories because she made that opportunity and everybody knows who she is now. It's like she left a legacy, but went, and so it's just creating that voice for girls that, you don't need to be on that big travel ball team and get all these letters, but it's what social media is putting out. It's what all this is putting out, which I love social media. I love seeing all the videos when it's used in the right way, but it is tough if you're, that other not 1% that is, you're getting that one offer, but it's showing them that that one offer, you can make the most out of it. You can have an amazing career. You can go and get the major that you want to set up your life after softball. And so, it's just creating those relationships and having those conversations with these young female athletes instead of, getting stuck in the whole social media world a little bit. So
Oh, 100%. Very easy to get stuck in the
I,
social
I
media
agree.
world, no
I do
matter
love
what age
social
you are.
media. Yeah, I had to
It
put a
is,
timer on
yeah.
my
It's like
phone. So
s- smart. I am telling you. Whenever I see my phone tell me like, "Oh, your screen time went up like however much percent last week," like iPhones do, I'm like always dreading it. I'm like, "Oh, that is
same.
not what I want to
That's
see
why I
right
put the
now."
timer
But
on.
that's really smart. I should probably do that. But and you mentioned this before too, in terms of like the relationships, first of all, being important for opportunities and things like that, but also just that they're lifelong. And so that's why I also think it's particularly awesome that you and Destiny are essentially teammates again, and
Yep.
that's really, really cool how that story unfolded too.
Absolutely. And I go back to, this community is so small. This softball community is so tight knit. And, even before this job, I, was moving back to California, was trying to figure out leaving Division 1 softball. And um a I mean, we had played together on the USA team. She played at Texas, and she was the one who got me in the door at my job opportunity here in California. And she was living in Texas. It's such a small world, this community, and the more relationship based we can make it, the more that, I literally texted her. I was like, hey, she got me in the interview. It's crazy how, just knowing each other through the sport and what it can do for the rest of your life. So, and she came to my wedding. It's crazy that, this sport, what it can do for women. So, no, I'm definitely a big advocate of creating those relationships. And that goes back to just like having those conversations with everybody and just making sure you're being kind to everybody. And then you never know what point of life you're going to, intertwine with somebody again. So,
1,000%. Look at us right now. Like who
Exactly.
would have ever
We're back.
thought that, right? Like who would have thought this? And this is just a small example of even bigger things like your relationship with
Yeah.
Destiny and how that played out. Like it's so cool. And not that we're biased because we obviously are, but I do think there's something just extra special about softball relationships in this community. Like just the respect that everybody has for each other for the most part, right? Like everyone has their flaws, every community has its flaws, but it's
Yeah.
so close knit and it feels like everybody just has the same goal. We want to grow the game. Like everyone agrees on that, So it feels like the North Star is at least the same for everybody. And I think it's just really, really special.
I agree. Destiny and I have been on about 100 calls, it feels like now, but it's like you said, it's all the same feedback is how do we grow this game? And, all softball players do want this game to be successful. We want, it to go in the right direction. And, we are getting those TV numbers when it comes to, World Series, but it's what we're doing on the front end with our youth to keep us projecting in that right direction as a sport, to grow the pro league, to give, women after college those opportunities if they want to pursue a career in softball. So yeah, I agree. It's something that we need to do a better job on, and everyone's in agreement with it that's played the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's something that you can always fall back on, like because we all feel sometimes you're like in the weeds of something and you're like, gosh, too close to it. You sometimes need to take that step back and be like, okay, wait, why am I doing this again? And I feel like it's just so clear and, a worthy cause, really, like what we're doing with softball.
Yeah.
So it's something that we can all relate to and I don't know, lean on, even if things are hard. And I just think given the nature of softball too, it's like we're a very resilient bunch. We're very persistent too. And maybe that's due to the fact that it's a game of failure, right? And so these are the lessons you learn as a player, as a coach, etc. But we just have that in us. And that's why I think it is where it is today. And it's something that we're all excited for because we know that it's going to only get bigger and better from here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could keep talking to you forever. This is so fun. Like we all like talking ball, right? And just talking about life and like this is what it's about. But I will respect your time. And maybe just to wrap up, we can play a little game that I play with everybody that comes on the show. And it's called Safer Out.
Okay.
And basically I will bring something up. And if you like it or you agree with it, you will call it safe. Or if you don't like it or you don't agree with it, then you'll call it out.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. No, I know. Some people get nervous. I'm like, honestly, it's very chill. Don't worry. So first question is, no music during workouts. Like just silence. You don't have the earbuds in. You're just working out without music. Safer out.
Ow. Definitely
Right?
out. I want music. I need
Right?
music. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't get it. Some people don't always have that. And I'm like, why?
I like 2000s hip hop blaring in my ears. Like, give me some good early 2000s, good hip hop. And yeah, that's the only thing I can work out to. So
100%. Okay. So that's what I was going to ask as well is I know that you're also a spin instructor.
Yes.
Side note.
Mm-hmm.
What is your go-to playlist? But is that it?
Yeah, my go-to playlist is definitely, a little bit of Jay-Z. I love Jay-Z. A little bit of E40. I like, those type of like style of, T.I., Chingy, just all the old Sierra, all the throwback early 2000s hip hop. So yeah, that's definitely if you're coming
this is middle school.
Yes.
I love this. That's amazing. I love that. I also love, you have to play E40 if you're in Northern California. Like,
exactly. Living in Northern California, E40's got to come on at least twice. So
got to do it. You have to. Did you have a walk-up song in college?
Such a sore subject. No. And if Coach Gasso listens to this, She better never give people walk-up songs because she has made a pact to us. She does not believe in walk-up songs. So she better keep that for the rest of her career because I will be angry if I attend an Oklahoma softball game and those players get walk-up songs. I think every alumni would walk out of the stadium if we heard walk-up songs coming from these players. But I had mine ready every year in case she changed her mind. So we definitely had our songs
That is
ready,
amazing.
but she didn't believe in them. And I get it. She wanted everyone to feel that it wasn't individualized. We're a team. And she thought it individualized people a little bit. But she's listening. She better never give walk-up songs. I will be so mad if I hear somebody walk to the plate with a walk-up song. So
I completely agree. I completely agree, though. We were the same way. We were not allowed to have walk-up songs. But if you asked anybody on the team, like, well, if we could, what would yours be? They knew, they could tell you right then.
Oh, yeah.
But now Stanford has walk-up songs. It's a different coach, but she was my assistant coach my freshman year still, and she was an alum too. And I'm like, come on, what? I mean, I'm like happy for them, but also, yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, I think I'd walk up to the press box and unplug the sound if OU got walk-up songs. I really would. I would be that mad.
Right? Yeah. Okay. If I get Coach Gasso on, this is going to be a question on the show.
Yes.
So,
and she better say
happening.
No. She's never doing it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Amazing. So the first one is out. So no, we have to have music, right? That's the theme.
Have to.
Okay. Second question is student athletes getting paid, aka like name, image, likeness. Safe or
out.
Okay, quick. That was a quick answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I get it where they're going with it. It's hard because I just loved the game so much, and that was never even a thought of me, like needing something like that. So I get it. I really do. I know, especially football and all of that. But to me, I got my school paid for. I left college debt free. And that to me is huge, and that's a big weight off my parents, my shoulders. I'm 30 and I did not, you know what I mean? And it's crazy to me that that's something that players feel they need. And to me, I loved representing Oklahoma. I loved playing for a national championship. I loved competing. And so making money and on my likeness was never something that even was maybe it's the times have changed, but never even would have been a thought. I thought it was so cool. I got meals paid for at the cafeteria. So I don't know. That one's a hard one for me just because I love the game so much and I loved playing so much. But I do get it. I do get where the game's going, and I do get these kids it's a full-time job, and you aren't leaving college with any experience in the workforce or like getting to have internships and all of that. I do get that point, but no, it was never something that even crossed my mind to need. So out.
Well, your point about with the walk-up songs, like Coach Gasso saying it's too individualized, like this is individualized too. I mean, some teams can sign on to things and whatever, but it is more individualized. It seems like a bit of like social media kind of where it's like, oh, you can see the positives in terms of growth and all that, but there's also like, a hard side to it too. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So.
Very fair. Okay, 2 outs. So I love whenever I do this too. I love like depending on whatever position my guest played. So in your case, it's like all right, catcher. So we're keeping the bases clean here. Like we're the catcher mindset, not the hitter mindset right now.
Yes.
But maybe a little. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit about the hitter mindset, which is the last one is bat flips. Safe or out?
I'm going to go with out still. I hate it. I don't like it. But once again, I know it's cool. I know people do it, but once again, I didn't need to flash myself with the bat flip, but I get it. It's cool. It's showy. Baseball does it and everything, but it goes back to, I hate it in baseball. Like I don't like it in either sport. So that was the big humble. Baseball does it. And it's like, well, do they have to do it? Or I also think they're individualizing themselves. So I don't know. I think my brain is always going to be a little bit more skewed playing for Coach Gasso because she has instilled in me that, blue collar, mentality. Um, so that one's hard for me to watch because I wasn't a showy player. I think it's about the team. It's about, making like everyone's got a role. So anything that's going to individualize is always going to be an out for me because,
Yeah.
we play a team sport. So
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And on the one hand, I'm like, well, if the men are doing it, women can do it. But on the other hand, it is kind of like, well, the go-to like parent thing. Well, if your friend's going to jump off a bridge, are you going to
like,
jump off a bridge too?
yeah.
It's like you could argue both sides.
Yeah, no, and everyone's like, well, do you like when baseball does? I'm like, no, I don't. I like when I'm watching the Dodgers and friggin' they hustle around the bases to get back to their team. And Cody Bellinger dislocates his shoulder because they're doing like a thing. Like, like that to me is fun. Like, not the bat flip. Like, I don't like it. I like the intensity of, pumping up your teammates. I like the intensity of hitting the home run and getting yourself around the bases to celebrate with your team, not the I have to think about myself. I never hit that good of a bomb where it'd be a no doubter. So I had to get my butt going because I was slow. So I was like, I don't know if this is getting out. I can't bat flip or do anything cool because it might hit the top of the fence and come back in. And then I'm going to be in really big trouble because I'm only at first base. So
well, that is true. There is nothing worse than like bat flipping or, doing something like that and then it not actually going out. Like that is probably the most embarrassing thing that could happen.
So, I mean, maybe if I knew it was a no doubter and I was playing now, I probably would have done one. Let's be like, I'm a copycat. I'm not going to lie. I would have probably wanted to be cool if I was playing now. But I still think I would have feared looking over at Coach Gasso and seeing what she would say to me. So I don't think the bat would have been for me. But
well, also, like, to be fair, with Oklahoma, I mean, what are you going to do? Bat flip every other at bat?
Exactly.
Because that's like where they've been at. Yeah.
It's almost like next person just hit a home run. My senior year, we opened against Oregon and we hit back to back home runs. And so it's like, are we all bat flipping or what? Or is it like, no, I agree. I think play the game, freaking create energy through the home run, create energy through your intensity. But to me, and I will probably get a lot of crap for this, but to me, the bat flip is only almost like an energy killer to me. Because it's like, okay, well, now I got to wait for the bat flip. And so, but I know it's cool. So, I mean, I'll still cheer if people bat but that's just my personal experience with the bat flip and what I feel. But everyone's different, and I don't judge people for bat flipping. I'll still be like, okay, you're a badass player. So,
yeah, no, this is just like your preference, you know, and that doesn't mean you're judging other people. It's just like, no, it's just not your thing, and that's
not my thing.
Yeah,
not cool enough to bat flip.
Well, awesome. I mean, 3 outs. There you go. Nailed it.
Outs.
Like perfect game. Basically, perfect game. Like, there you go.
No
Love
hitter.
that connection.
Yeah.
Well, this has been super fun. Like, thank you. Like, I've loved your energy. It's been cool to get to know you, like I said, too, outside of like, oh, hey, I know that girl. We've played against each other when we were kids, like it's been nice to get to know you as an adult. And
no, same. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
It was really good to catch up with Jessica Shults. And one really cool thing about this show is that not only am I, connecting with old friends or making brand new friendships, but I'm also getting to strengthen weak ties that I've had throughout my life in this game. So the people where maybe, we knew of each other, but now we have a chance to actually get to know each other. So it's just pretty cool. And it's one of my favorite things about the show. So with that, let's transition to the foul tip of the week. This week's foul tip is about remembering all the work that Shults is doing with Perfect Game, and just for young girls in general, got me thinking about what brought a young me to this game in the first place. And I've had these conversations with teammates over the years where we're like, remember the little girl who fell in love with the game and just try to make her proud. We used to talk about that a lot during college, when pressure got high and we started overanalyzing and things. It's like, how do we simplify? And the reason we go back there is because, it's so pure when we first started playing, and it's all for the right reasons. It's like, we love to feel strong. We love the teamwork and the relationships and the challenge and overcoming things and the feeling of having hard work pay off. And then when you just see the impact that it has on people and people's lives and ultimately the community and society, it's hard not to fall in love with, But as the sport is growing so much, and sometimes, when that happens, it's easy to get caught up in where we are and where we're going and forget where we've been. So in those times in my life, softball or not, remembering the beginning, the magic, the love, the why, that's what gets you through the tough times and maybe even keeps you humble in the good times. It's really the reason for it all. So no matter who you are or how you're connected to the game, let's never forget. That's it. Remember, that's the foul tip of the week. You've been listening to Bleav in Softball, part of the Bleav Podcast Network and presented by BetOnline. The show is available anywhere you get your podcasts, wherever you listen, including Bleav.com, and you can watch the videos on YouTube too. Subscribe, rate, and write a review for the show. I always appreciate your support and hearing what you think. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bleav in Softball. That's BLEAV. You can always reach out to me on Twitter at JennaBecerra01 and Instagram at Jenna Becerra as well. Thank you for tuning in and catch you soon.